Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to be using some products from WPlus9, the You Color My World, and then the Crew School Days. Now, before we get too far into this video, I want to mention that I did film this quite some time ago, so do not freak out. I don't have an engagement ring on in this video because I was not yet engaged. Not because something drastic has happened. Nothing has happened. Still engaged. Still planning on getting married June 6th. This is just, it's one that I had kind of waiting in the wings. I had told you before, with everything going on family-wise, I just haven't had a whole lot of time to craft. And because of that, I keep some chilling in the background for when I need them. So I love the You Color My World set. I always have. I think it's just such a great set for, like, if you're a crafter, card maker, painter. I just think it's great. So I really wanted to make a background with it. And then I also really loved the whole crew. They did the WPlus9 did the garden club and then did school days. Those are on sale right now. So the stamp sets are on sale for, I think, $11.99, and then their matching dies are on sale for, I think, like $15. They're normally $25. So just FYI on that, in case you fall in love with the little girls just like I did. I love anything that allows me to build a scene, but sometimes it's nice to just be able to sit down and color, and especially right now where I am at. Well, first of all, the Kathy Rakusen's 30-day color challenge just kicked off again March 1st. But like with where I'm at with being able to create and having time to create, sometimes it's just nice to just be able to color. So I wanted to do a background here, and you can see I'm just filling in the pieces parts. There's no really, rhyme or reason to it, just as long as everything is covered and filled in. When you're doing something that looks like pattern paper, you do want to make sure you're stamping off the edge so it looks like one continuous piece. And then here, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the pieces parts that I'm going to cut out to kind of build my scene on the front of it. This is different for me than the usual scene that I would build, but different doesn't mean bad. Different just means different. And sometimes it's nice to kind of break it up and not do a full massed scene. They are pretty labor intensive, and there does have to be quite a bit of planning going into them. So when you're using dies, even though I don't use them all the time, you don't have to kind of like pre-plan any of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? You just color your pieces, cut them out, and then, you have the option to move them around. So here what I'm doing is I'm creating a mask for this canvas because I want to stamp inside the canvas, but I don't want to stamp outside the canvas. So instead of cutting out the image and masking the canvas, I'm actually masking around it so that I can stamp. So I'm just going to trim out the square inside. This can be difficult with more intricate images, but with this just being a rectangle, like, it's pretty simple to just get in there and trim it out. And then you'll see I'm going to put this right over my canvas so that I can stamp my umbrella and my clouds. So it looks like that is what my little artist Chica is painting here. So yeah, that's I kept it pretty chill with the primary colors, still bright, but not anything crazy going on. Here I'm cutting a mask for the umbrella so I can do the clouds. It is a smaller canvas, so, not going to be doing a ton of stuff here. But just, so it looks like she painted something, so it's not a blank canvas. So as far as life lately, you guys know, it's just kind of been a little bit wild and crazy. Just working so much and trying to get this wedding planned. So here, I mean, for the coloring for this is mostly the same as I usually do. This is kind of my go-to coloring combo for Caucasian skin. It does seem a little crazy with that EO4, but it all blends out really nicely, I promise. It's going to look kind of dark until we get the rest of the colors on there. But if you've watched my channel before, you know it's a trust exercise, and I will not lead you astray. Not intentionally. And if I do lead you astray, I will teach you how to fix it. So there's that. Yeah, really just... Peanut's got a lot going on with school. He's got his art show coming up, and then they have literacy night. I don't know if we're going to go to that or not, just because it's kind of a lot in one week. Tonight was family fun night, which means he didn't have any homework. So we actually, we made dinner together. He's been on, my kid would never eat meat, really. I mean, it was a struggle. And so now that he's getting a little bit older, he's slowly kind of coming into some more things that he's willing to eat. And recently, he has decided he likes little chickens. Now, if little chickens, you know, if you've watched my channel, you know my mother makes them, and me and my sisters like drive in to get our our portion of the little chickens, is pretty much just breaded, is a breaded chicken, but it's cut up into like bite-sized pieces, and it gets crunchy and delicious. And it's very labor intensive to make little chickens, because you gotta, you know, cut everything up and get rid of all the yucky stuff, and then egg wash and bread it and put it in the pan, and you have to work in batches because there's so many of them, and it is a little bit labor intensive. And so thankfully my mother, you know, makes it for us. Thanks, Mom. But so I also make little chickens, but not very often. So probably about a month ago, no, probably more like 2 months ago, I made little chickens, and he decided he wanted to try them. So now he is a fan of little chickens. Since I made them that first time, we have had them twice. And so he asked for them tonight. Well, after he asked for meatloaf, which was a new discovery probably about 2 weeks ago, that he's willing to eat meatloaf. So he asked for meatloaf, and I was like, ain't nobody got time for that tonight. Because I picked him up from my parents after work, and then we went to the grocery store and had to pit stop CVS. And then when we got home, I was like, ain't nobody got time for meatloaf. Sorry, kid. Later this week. Then he asked for cheese quesadillas, of which I do not have a tortilla to work with at the moment. So his last request was little chickens, so that's what we made. And then we, as our like family fun activity, we played Go Fish. And it was actually super fun. Eric and I played Go Fish the other night, just because we were sitting at the kitchen table having snacks, and you know, to do something that was a little bit more engaging. We couldn't find any other games in the house. I don't know where my Skippo or my Uno has disappeared to in the move, but I'll have to hunt them down. But we could find Nathan's Go Fish cards, and so we played that, and it was actually really fun. So it has been a little bit of a struggle with Graham in the facility. My poor mother is so, I talked to her today, and she was like, I'm a little tired. You know what that translates to, right? Because the woman never says she's tired. So that means she's a whole lot tired, and I don't blame her. And because she's been driving in and sitting there for hours. So this past weekend, my dad is better. He is better. He did finally go to the doctor. And they, you know, gave him a stronger antibiotic, and that does seem to be working. Thank God. But, you know, he's still tired. Also, he's 72, so that might have something to do with it. So Mom asked me, because she had a bowling tournament this weekend, can you go sit with Graham? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So she was like, your uncle's going to go there in the morning, and then if you could go at like 4:30. And I was like, well, who's going to be with her from, you know, whatever, 9:30 in the morning until 4:30? And she was like, I don't have anybody, nobody. Because now, mind you, my sisters are not being lazy. They're with her on this bowling tournament. They all bowl together on the same team. So that really just leaves me and Dad. So Eric and I had an appointment to go pick out our wedding rings on Saturday afternoon. And because he had my ring custom made, it's not a set. Like I don't have a band that matches it. I had to pick a band. And then he also had to pick his ring out. So we went and did that. I went and got a coffee, because Lord Jesus knows I cannot survive without my coffee. And then I went to go check on Graham. So my game plan was to go sit with Graham for like an hour or two, and then go home for like an hour or two, and then come back and sit with Graham. That is not what happened. Um, so when I got there, she was sleeping. And so I waited a little bit. I woke her up, asked her how she was doing. She said that she had a headache, and that her bottom was sore. Now, because of everything that she has going on and bedridden and all of that, like, she does have a rash, which looks very sore. Like, it just does. Um, so I called the nurse, and the nurse came. She was very nice, and she said we gave her Tylenol about 30 minutes ago for her headache. So you might want to wait to give that some time to work. And then she checked to make sure that Graham hadn't used the bathroom, or didn't need to go to the bathroom, because she can't get up. Okay, she's got a broken pelvis. It's just a hairline fracture, but she still isn't allowed to put any pressure on it. So we're kind of, it just is what it is. We're in a bedpan situation. So checked that she doesn't need to go to the bathroom. She hasn't gone to the bathroom. We're all good. And so she goes. Graham says she's going to rest. I'm sitting there hanging out, and I notice in her sleep she is scratching, like where her rash is. And her nails are a little bit long. And so I was concerned about her getting that stuff underneath her nails, and then, like touching her face or her mouth, because she doesn't realize that she's been doing it in her sleep. So I rang and then she woke up and was talking about how her head still hurt. So I rang the nurse again, and then I was rubbing, because she said it was like almost like her neck, like the base of her skull, almost like where it would be if you were dehydrated. And then kind of like the side of her head is what was bothering her. So I was rubbing her head. We were waiting for the nurse to come. He did come. Very, very nice guy. And, basically, I asked him if they had any. I asked him about her headache, and he said, he would have to talk to the nurse to see what they had already, like how much Tylenol they had given her. And then I asked him about if they had any, like, alcohol wipes, wet ones, anything, so I could clean off her hands. And he was like, no, the only thing we have is bleach wipes or washcloths, which I really find very baffling. But whatever, this is the situation that we're in. So she goes back to sleep, and I'm like, well, she's sleeping. I'm going to run out and buy some wet ones. And then I also picked up a nail file and some trimmers so that I could cut her nails down, because she's also on blood thinners. And so with her scratching, like, I'm worried about, like, not just her, picking up the ointment or causing a secondary infection, but also, scratching herself until she bleeds. So I go to Walgreens, I get all of that stuff done. Now, intermittently here, my dad is calling me. How are things going? Do you need me to come in? And I'm like, nah, I'm good. It's totally okay. So I get the things from Walgreens. I go back. She's still sleeping. As I get in the door, my uncle calls. Now, this is her oldest son, to talk to her. I kind of bring him up to date. And then I hand her the phone to talk to him. While she's on the phone, I notice that there's blood on her hand, like underneath her nails and like in her nail beds. So I'm like, maybe she, again, blood thinners, things, even little things bleed like crazy. My mom's on them since she had her heart attack. And like, even if she just gets, like, her arm just gets nicked, she just bleeds and bleeds and bleeds, and it might bleed all afternoon, and she just continually is putting pressure on it because it's an anticoagulant, so it won't clot. So I'm trying to figure. Now I'm checking all over. I'm checking her arms, I'm checking her legs, her head or chest, trying to figure out where she may have scratched herself. Now, the whole time she's on the phone, and I can't find it. And at this point, I've run out of spots that I can check on my own because I can't move her, and she obviously is not allowed to move on her own. So I tell my uncle, hey, we gotta go. I gotta figure out what my situation is. And here is where things start to take a turn. And I get, like, I told you in the beginning, my mom was very, very nervous about her being in a facility. So I ring the nurse and nobody comes. Um, Now, I will say this: when I was at Walgreens, when I was coming back in Walgreens, there was an elderly gentleman who fell out of his wheelchair in the common area, and I mean that poor old man really did like bust his head. Like there was quite a bit of blood, and they ended up having to call the paramedics for him. So they have had some things happening, but that is over. Okay, it's over. It's cleaned up. It's done by the time I'm ringing the nurse again. So nobody's coming. I go out into the common area until I find somebody who works there. A young lady comes in. She's very nice. I tell her what's going on, and she says, "Okay, I'll be back." She's like, "This, this isn't my area, but I'll be back in just a few minutes." When she gets off the phone and to try and figure it out, 25 minutes goes by. Now, in this amount of time, I have managed to disinfect Graham's hands, cut all of her nails, and file all of her nails. Nobody has come back. Well, and clean out underneath them. So I ring the nurse again. And this time it's probably another 20-minute wait before anybody shows up. Now, when he does come, again, still very nice. And he did apologize for the wait. So I appreciate that. But, I tell him this is what's going on. And he was like, okay, I'm going to have to get the nurse. Okay, fine. So the nurse comes in, checks her out. Now, by this time, I have figured out that at least I know where the bleeding is coming from because I watched her scratch, like just above like her pelvic bone, and her fingers came away bloody again. So at least I know where she's bleeding from. Like, I don't know if that's where she scratched herself or what. So the nurse comes in, I tell her what's going on. She looks at it. She's like, yeah, she for sure has a scratch, and obviously she has this rash. And she said, I think that's what it's coming from. And I'm like, okay. So the nurse aide, the gentleman, was like, is there anything else you need? And I said, well, she's got blood on her pants. Like, she's bled through her pants. I need to change her pants. And he was like, I can 100% help with that. And I said, well, while you're here, she has not gone to the bathroom since I have been here. And at this point, I have been here for, I think it was 2.5 hours at that point. And he was like, okay, we'll check to see if she, needs to go to the bathroom. And so he flips the covers up and has Graham roll over. And as soon as she does, I can see that she has bled through the liner that they give her, bled through her pajama pants, bled into the pad on the bed. And he's immediately like, okay, this is worse than we thought it was. And again, gets the nurse's attention. So now we're on the hunt to figure out where is this bleeding coming from. Now, throughout all of this, she's not complaining of any pain. She has really good color. She's totally like alert as far as what's going on. Can follow directions and answer questions and all of that. So the nurse is like, I think it's just from her scratching. And I was like, I don't think that it is. I don't think that it is. There were other things that led me to believe that wasn't it. And when I pointed them out, she said, well, I think that's where she has scratched off her skin. And I said, then show me like, you guys I'm sure can tell just from, me talking on YouTube that I'm very forward and very candid. And especially when it comes to somebody that I love, like she's mine, period, end of story. And I was like, so show me where she has open sores because I'm not seeing them, where her skin would be missing. And so we go through the searching and the looking, and in searching and looking, we find out that when, Graham's using the bathroom and stuff, they are not cleaning her up properly, which straight makes me so angry, which again, pointed out at the time. And so we look, can't find anything. And finally, to her credit, and at least I can respect it, she looks at me and says, I don't know. I don't know where the bleeding is coming from. I've checked all the things I can check. They don't appear to be coming from any of those areas. I don't know where it's coming from. And I told her, that is fair. At least you're being honest. Like, at least you're not going to lie to me and try to pretend like it's something that you get. And I said, while we're at it, can we talk about the not cleaning her up properly? And she totally took it in stride. She was like, that's not okay. They need to be, paying better attention. They need to be being more thorough. And I was like, okay, cool. Glad we're on the same page. We're going to monitor it. Now I have the super fun job of calling my mother, right? This is the first break that she's taken since this whole ordeal has happened, and telling her that this is what's going on. So, to her credit, mom was really good about it. She asked a lot of questions. I told her, I said, whatever you want me to do, just tell me what the answer is. I will make that happen. Do you want me to have them call the charge nurse? Do you want me to have them call an ambulance to take her back to the hospital? Like, you tell me what you want me to do, I will do the thing. And so basically what we decided is I'm going to stay until my father gets there. And we're going to monitor it to see, because I mean, it was like, for her to bleed that much through that many layers, and it only have been, because they checked her when I first got there, remember? So for it only to have been just a couple of hours, I was very nervous about it. But I can tell you that we checked in 2 hours, they checked again in 2 hours, and there was no more bleeding, and there hasn't been any since. So I am still baffled as to what was causing her bleeding. It could have just been the scratching. I don't know. We don't know, because it hasn't reoccurred. So, but in doing that and having that experience along with some other experiences, which I didn't even know, like my mom's keeping a lid on things. And my mother totally watches my videos, so she's going to hear me say this. But apparently, like, a Graham's blanket was stolen. It's not good. And we're having issues with insurance and what they will and will not cover, which is just, oh my gosh, flames could shoot out of my eyeballs. That makes me so angry. So on Thursday, they are going to sit down and have a meeting, and as far as mom knows, they're going to sign off on mom bringing her home. So the game plan is to put a hospital bed in the living room, get her a chair, bedpan, all this stuff, because my mom's like, they're not doing anything for her that I could not do for her at home, and I would be doing a better job of it. Which is fair. And I'm not saying all facilities are like that, but in this particular case, yeah, we've had 2 weeks is enough. 2 weeks is enough. So, yeah, that's what's going on with that. Graham does seem to be doing better. She's just, she doesn't like being in the facility. I totally get that. Nobody likes her being in the facility. So hopefully bringing her home will work out better for all of us. For Graham, for mom, for everybody. So, now that I've basically talked about story time throughout the entire card, the only thing I want to add is, even though I did do the die cuts, I did feel like it was a little bit floating in the air. So I did add some gray at the bottom just to ground that image, and then that's it. That is the whole card. So like I said, these are on sale along with a whole bunch of other stuff. If you haven't checked out WPlus9's clearance section, please do. There'll be a link below if you're watching on YouTube, and then that's it. So I will catch you guys on the next video. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.